What about biotechnology and biofuels? Do you see a future possibly that they would create specific canola varieties, for instance, that would be only for biofuels?
I see corn. I mean, there are premiums being paid for corn right now in the ethanol side of the equation. I do know, for example, in Europe they're working on a potato that would be a premium for the industrial markets. So yes, that can occur, and there are new trait technologies, particularly for things like cellulosic ethanol, that allows more digestion and higher yields of ethanol from the same number of acres.
What about livestock producers? Do you see them benefiting from the next wave of biotechnology in any way?
It's going to be more difficult to go through the regulatory process on livestock. I think there's what I will call more passion in that area. I mean, you look at things like cloning, for example, has not been as yet allowed. The U.S., I mean, from a scientific standpoint, it's probably not an issue, but again, what I would emphasize that from a consumer standpoint, it could be an issue. Livestock producers still benefit because they have to feed the animals, so we have certain varieties of corn that are being destined for chickens, as an example. Again, this is more through selective breeding, but when we talk about biotechnology, it's also what we call assisted markers, so that we don't have to look at the trait. We can identify a gene that gives you the certain trait, and then through normal breeding build the level of that trait, and that's still a form of biotechnology.
If you were a Canadian farmer sitting out there today wondering, wonder what opportunities, what are the big opportunities that biotech might provide for me in the future, what would you suggest those could be?
Well, I guess first of all, you have to think beyond the traditional food and feed markets. I mean, if I look at what agriculture is being challenged to do, for example, in the province of Ontario, our Ontario Power Generation now wants 3 million metric tons of dried biomass to help replace the coal in our coal-fired generators, which by law will cease in 2014. So there's opportunities in there, and we are working with certain companies on traits being put in what I will call pure energy crops. Similarly, you may be contracting potatoes for a particular starch market. So I think at the end of the day, in my opinion, in our North American context, we need new markets for the business of agriculture, and society is demanding it. I mean, help us replace our reliance on fossil fuels. Help us reduce our carbon footprints. And agriculture and this technology has a role to play in that particular need of society, along with, and I want to emphasize, our ability to produce food and feed for society at large. I mean, most consumers have no idea that Food Freedom Day this year was February the 12th, and all the farmers' production was paid for by January the 8th. I don't think our mission in agriculture is to move that to New Year's Day. So this technology will help us move to other types of markets, which society is demanding as well.
Yeah. Do you foresee a change in attitude toward, for instance, wheat? That was a big battle, and wheat has never really gone the biotech route. Do you foresee if public perception eases that wheat would go there?
I've seen a number of surveys done by wheat producers who want to use this crop, and in fact, if you look at the U.S. Wheat Producers Association say we need to embrace this technology. Around North America, wheat acreage is going down because the return on investment is better in soybeans and corn, and if we start getting things like drought tolerance in those crops and not in wheat, they recognize that the acreages of wheat will go down as farmers will respond to market. And so I think the farmers want to embrace this technology, just like canola in Australia today is now genetically modified, and that took a number of years, but it was the farmers who were saying we have to compete in a global world.
Gotcha.
But again, at the end of the day, wheat ends up as a direct consumption by the consumer. But if we have shortages and it was because of major droughts and we could have alleviated these through technology, I think people will start to understand it, especially, and I want to emphasize this, we must maintain our regulatory system. We have the best in the world, in my opinion, in Canada and around the world. We've never seen a human health issue. And as time continues and more producers around the world use these products, we have to look at, we shouldn't look at it as a generalization. We have to look at every trait individually and ensure safety, not only to the consumer, but also to the environment, animals, etc.
Okay. We'll leave it there, Gord. I appreciate you speaking with us today.
It was my pleasure, Kevin.